Hey, what's up? This is Acceleration here. From bad shoe last week to much better shoe, the Nike ACG Mowabb this time, hot new release, celebrating the 30th anniversary of this shoe. Earlier this year we had a few more retro colorways drop, which were direct references to the original versions of the shoe, but now we've got something a little bit modern, a little bit more understated, and dare I say, a little bit more tech wear. I have a feeling these are going to appeal to people after a more protective or winter-ready sneaker to pair up with those technical or utilitarian outfits. They certainly appealed to me for that reason. We'll take a close look at all the key details and ultimately decide if this is something you should consider picking up, because with Christmas around the corner, you might be after some gifts either for you or for that tech-wear sneaker fan in your life. There's more on that later, but for now, let's take a close look at these. The Mowabb is a trail-inspired sneaker boot designed to be equally at home in the city or out in the wilderness. It's essentially a beefed up version of the Huarache. You'll notice some similarities here, from the plastic heel cage at the back to that neoprene boot-like construction. Even if you look on the tongue, it bears that distinctive Huarache branding, putting it officially under that same product line. However, there are a bunch of differences too, and in my eyes, improvements on the Huarache, both aesthetically and functionally. A good thing too, because these retail at £155 or $165, making these significantly more expensive than the Huarache, and at the top end of Nike's sneaker lineup. The overall boot-like shape is certainly a big difference. It extends further up the ankle, giving you immediately a more protective and a more rugged look. But you'll notice most of the paneling over the shoe is different too, with boot and cage being completely stitched to the upper. Contrast materials being used instead as well, namely nubuck suede and ballistic nylon. They look and feel pretty tough, and certainly more protective than your average sneaker, yet at the same time have a relatively slim overall shape, thanks to the form-fitting neoprene boot that's under those panels. The contrasting materials, the tonal finish, is definitely key to the overall look of complexity on this sneaker. Nike branding on these is fairly low. The standard lateral swoosh you won't find here. There's a mini one to the toe instead, and ACG text stamped on the ankle, and to the back, the most visible piece of branding is the Nike Air text, which admittedly does stick out quite a lot, but when it's on the back, I feel like the visibility of that is far reduced. Overall, they're definitely not an over-branded shoe, which certainly appeals to me. Those material panels are the main event aesthetically, there's no doubt about that. But they're not just there for looks, there is intention behind this material selection as well. Look at the use of ballistic nylon across the front of the toe, for example. That's the area where you're most likely to sustain damage, so they've used something a little bit stronger and more durable there. But then over the toe box and over each side of the shoe, you've got that more pliable suede, and then the neoprene cuff extending up the ankle, where you've got that extra stretch, making it easier to put your foot in. That's something Nike actually say they've improved for this iteration, and you can see there's these cutouts here on the neoprene on the boot, meaning that these sections here can stretch a surprising amount. And of course you've got the plastic cage at the heel, which is going to provide stability a bit better than some of those other materials. Taking a look at the midsole though, you'll see this thing is fairly chunky, which yes is common both of a Huarache and a sneaker boot generally, and yet I don't think it draws too much attention to itself. It's got this understated speckled finish, there's a reference to the Air unit, you can see part of the outsole coming up there, but it doesn't feel too aggressively winterized, there's no massive lugs or anything like that. And while people might prefer that kind of more super winter, super all-terrain ready look, I actually think part of the appeal of these is in the fact that they balance that outdoor performance aesthetic with something a little bit sleeker and a bit more modern. It's actually a little less angular and retro looking than the Huarache that they're based on, and that's not something that you can say for many winterized sneakers. This colorway though is absolutely worth talking about because it's very different to the other choices, and it's really, for me, part of what gives this sneaker its appeal. Although these are the most black heavy colorway by far, they are actually primarily not black. Nike refer to this color as Off-Noir, and on the product pictures it kind of looks pretty much black, but in person, definitely not. This is a dark grey, 100%. And before you panic, don't worry, I actually think that's a good thing. The black paneling means it's still going to look great with black pants and indeed all black outfits, but the grey just brings out that tonality a little bit more. It gives a little bit more of a pop to the shoe, especially with those olive grey accents too. It's just that little bit more interesting than all black. It also means you've opened up some more aesthetic options too. You'll see in most of the clips I'm wearing these with some grey, Gorilla Group pants, and I think that combination is really, really nice. You can clearly see all those nice material changes and paneling detailing, but it's no way near as in your face as the other colorways, and those ones are, yeah, absolutely going to appeal to the trail, the Gorpcore enthusiasts, but probably not in the interest of anyone looking for more urban, utilitarian stuff. If you've been following this channel a while, you'll know that I actually already own a pair of ACG Mowabbs, specifically the Comme des Garçons Homme Plus version that came out a couple of years ago. So I was fairly confident that in my true size of UK 11 these would come up just fine, and indeed that is the case. True size, I think these are nice and comfy. They have a slightly relaxed, more boot-like fit, so they pair up perfectly with some nice thick socks. Peep the orange ACG ones in this video, which are no doubt showing up occasionally. But the upper can be pulled over the neoprene boot quite effectively with these laces, and in fact, if you need a little bit more stability, there are some alternative lace holes that are a little bit lower, so you can put these in sport mode if you want to. I do find because they use that slightly elasticated rope lace, these can work themselves loose over time, which is slightly annoying. Also, because these are a boot shape, you can't really effectively sort of tuck these into the shoe, so it's a double bows all the way if you're wearing these all day. The neoprene boot has a nice bit of give to it, whilst feeling relatively supportive thanks to that high top design and the heel cage helping to lock your foot in there too. You do get a little bit of heel slippage, but it's not too bad. Underfoot, it's a pretty full feeling sole, so it feels nice and stable, and I think there's just enough cushioning in these for them to be suitable for multi-terrain use. They're not this super hard Vibram outsole, but neither are they a ridiculously squashy foam. Personally, I find these pretty comfortable, especially with that air unit that's in the heel. This is another area Nike say they've upgraded for this release. They've added cushioning to the midsole, and comparing these directly with the Comme des Garçons version, there is a noticeable little bit of extra squashiness, shall we say, in the sole. It's not a massive difference, it's an iterative upgrade rather than a revolution, but nonetheless, it is something that's that little bit better than before. So far, I'd consider these up there with some of my most comfortable sneakers. Looking at the outsole, it does appear to be a little bit basic looking. It doesn't quite have some crazy tread pattern or anything like that, but you will find a mix of materials here. You've got very hard rubber around the outside and some softer stuff towards the middle. So I think as far as stability underfoot is concerned, that's going to provide a benefit there. Admittedly, I've not really tested these out on any really slippery terrain, but I've certainly not noticed any problems myself in terms of traction yet. I've also not had the chance to wear these all day in the pouring rain yet, but these are not GTX lined or anything, so they're not going to give you that full waterproof experience. And although the upper is far more attached, the whole upper is stitched together, unlike with the original Huarache. The neoprene boot underneath is still exposed across the tongue there, and that material is going to retain water over time. However, both the nylon and the suede of the upper have some natural water repellency, giving you some light rain protection, and the midsole being fairly thick helps prevent water coming up into the footbed when you're walking on wet ground. You'll also notice ventilation over the lateral sides and on the toe box, which again is going to mean that these are not fully impervious to water, but crucially this is going to give them better breathability than something that's totally enclosed. These shoes are a little bit on the warmer side, that's for sure, but I've not noticed any problems so far with getting really sweaty feet or anything like that, so definitely welcome for kind of general purpose all day wear. You've hopefully got a sense through the visuals at least of these being a fairly substantial and premium looking shoe at a material level, which is definitely the case. It's an expensive shoe, but there are a lot of different panels and elements that are going into that. A lot of those are designed with general purpose comfort in mind, rather than some kind of high level technical functionality. And there are other brands and sneakers that will fit that role better, things like Salomon, Snowcross and Hoka One, stuff like that, which are really designed 100% for bad conditions out there on the trails, treacherous ground, those kinds of things. Might have more technology at play as well, whether we're talking Gore-Tex lining, specialized outsoles, quick release lacing systems, things like that. We also have to compare a shoe like this to the GTX Mountain Fly, which came out at a very similar time, which is a little bit more futuristic looking, Gore-Tex lined, so is higher in terms of that water resistance functionality. But the Mowabb I think are a nice middle ground of being able to support that light to moderate outdoor activity while still being aesthetically and functionally appropriate for use in a more casual city scenario. And I feel like for a lot of people interested in this shoe, that's probably the kind of area where you're going to be wearing these. That versatility extends to their aesthetic as well, making the ACG Mowabb, especially in this colour, a real breeze to style. I think these work very nicely with some attention-grabbing, very futuristic looking outfits. They'll go great with that technical, utilitarian, urban wear because that association with the outdoors can really be downplayed with this colourway, I think, and you're sort of leaving the technical functionality at the forefront. But they're a little bit less attention-grabbing and futuristic than your BBS Bambas or some kind of super modern sock shoe. So that means you also have the option of wearing these in a far more low-key or casual way, and even making more of those outdoor hiker aesthetics without going sort of full gorpcore as you might expect from the other colorways. Here I've gone more for a modern hiker kind of vibe, and this sort of thing would be very appropriate out there on the trails for a casual bit of hiking, but wouldn't look out of place in the city at all. So whether you're thinking more attention grabbing or more low-key, I think these sneakers can support that pretty nicely, and there'll be things that I've not really played around or experimented with yet, where it's also going to look quite nice as well. Even in terms of how you want your pants to fit, I think because these are a relatively slim or form-fitting boot, wearing a slimmer or a more tapered pant can work pretty nicely. But at the same time, you could lean more into the sort of retro hiker direction, pick something a little bit wider that's going to fall over the boot a bit more, and it's not going to drown them out because they are still quite present. They are a sneaker boot overall. So your options are numerous for sure. I really don't think a shoe like this is going to lock you out of experimenting with too many different styles. All in all, what do we have here? A fairly expensive shoe, which perhaps doesn't offer the raw performance of some of those more off-road focused alternatives, but excels in all-round versatility, both in terms of performance and aesthetics, making these a really nice choice for people that are fans of urban technical style, but also people that want a little bit more from their sneakers without going into that maximum Gore-Tex, highly technical sort of area. I expect I'll be wearing these a lot over the Christmas holidays and hopefully next week as well, because we're going to be venturing out of the studio here and taking a trip down to Nike Town, London. We're going to be in full Christmas gift mode and making use of some of their gifting services in the store as well, which I'm super excited about. And hopefully we'll be able to check out some new season Nike ACG, or at least some interesting fun stuff, because they've got a pretty massive selection there. Got to say, massive thanks to Nike for inviting me down to do that, and yeah, looking forward to taking you guys on that little trip with me. We'll be finding out if that's the best way to do your tech wear Christmas shopping. But that's it for the Nike ACG Mowabb. Hope you guys enjoyed taking a look at these sneakers. Let me know what you think of them, or if you've already picked them up, if you've got any thoughts, anything that you want to add to these. Always keen to hear what you guys think about the various things that you've been picking up, because you guys are always super helpful in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, please do give it a like. It is super appreciated. And as always, we will be back next week with another video. A shout out to Dr. Lovebot, can't argue with that. It's got the style, it's got the water resistance, it's got the breathability with the croc holes, it's got the optional sport mode. It's got it all. And shout out to Isaac for identifying some more areas that those sneakers from last week managed to rip off. It doesn't surprise me that not a single part of those is their own design. Good job we had the Mowabbs as a bit of a palette cleanser there. But thanks for making it all the way to the end of the video. If you want to catch some more, there's going to be links going up at the top. And if you haven't subscribed yet, then definitely consider doing so. We are so gosh darn close to 100k, which is super exciting. So that's going to be coming soon. I'll have to plan some kind of fun video that we can do for that. But that's all for now, so catch you next week.